Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome.
Yes, today is October 19th, 2025, and our talk today is Can You Talk to God?
I thought it was going to be taking care of your feet after that long march.
Yeah. No, it's about can you talk to God? And this is a question that a lot of people have. We get confused from our early upbringing,
Right.
what we learned about God, and what we learned in New Thought. And so we're going to explore that today. One of the first things that we learned, uh, if you had a Christian upbringing, was that God is omniscient, all knowing, omnipresent, everywhere present, and omnipotent, all power.
Right.
Did I do all powerful?
Yeah,
Omnipotent, omniscient, and omnipresent.
that's right.
Omnipresent.
And wears a lot of white and lives in the clouds.
Yes.
And apparently prefers harp music to everything else.
But I think all those omnis maybe get people a little off base, and they forget that this business that God is everywhere present also means in
That's right.
us. And so the question, can you talk to God, is answered in our teaching by we're always talking to God
In other words,
because
can you talk to yourself? We've been doing that for a long time.
we're always talking to God because every thought we think, everything we feel is a communication with God. And so that is really the basis of this teaching of the science of mind, that we're always communicating with God, basically creating our experience with our thoughts. And so, one of the first things I learned to do in this teaching is to change some of what I was thinking, because if I'm directing what's going to be happening to me, I wanted to be more positive than some of my thoughts and feelings were. So this is what Ernest Holmes has to say about that, and this is from his book, Can We Talk to God? He says, there is a power and a presence in the universe which responds to us so completely, so perfectly, that we shall be amazed when we realize how completely and how perfectly. But it can only operate for us through us. Our communication with God must of necessity be and always remain an inner light. We communicate with the indwelling God.
You know, what I cannot help but think, do fish believe in water?
Yeah, to believe they can communicate with the water.
Right. But fish are also composed partly of water.
Yes.
So they are made up of water. They swim in water, but they don't see the water, nor do they see that every move that they make has an effect on everything around them. That is, the water is now not in the same place it was. Everything has changed. They're in this intimate relationship with their source, and they have no clue.
You can imagine fish communicating with each other and say, do you believe in the ocean? I'm not sure
No,
I believe in
I've
an
heard about
ocean.
it. Yeah. And I've never seen water. I've heard about it. Yeah.
And you live and move and have your being in it.
But I think we are in the
That's,
sea of consciousness.
yeah.
We are all connected in so many more ways than we think. And I think we learn more about that as we learn more about what does the new science say. Walking on anyway, that where we can see a particle in one place and know that it's having an effect in another. And I lost it.
Quantum physics.
Quantum physics. So thinking about quantum physics is teaching us that we are so much more connected in thought and in action than we thought we were.
Absolutely. And so another thing that we learned as children is that we can pray to God, but that was like to a God way up in the sky, and you weren't always going to get results with that. It's like you weren't sure you were praying right or praying, you just weren't sure it was reaching its destination. So that's a concept that I needed to change when I realized that God is within and is hearing everything I think. But more than that, it is responding to everything I think, saying, right you are, my beloved. Right you are. So if you're saying I'm miserable, right you are, my beloved. You get what you create. And so we have to take responsibility, not only for what we say, but for what we think, because God is there responding. God is an energy that's everywhere present. So how can it not be also in you? A lot of times this is referred to as the light within us. There is a Hebrew word called Shekinah, and it refers to the indwelling presence. In mystical Judaism and in New Thought interpretation, Shekinah refers to the indwelling radiance of the divine presence that lives within every soul.
That's beautiful.
Yes, and so it's to this that we are always communicating. And so, when you experience that as you change your thinking, your life changes as well. That is a very powerful aha. Like, aha, wow, now I have to really be responsible for what I say, but not only what I say, what I think, because I'm creating my own experience. So we want to not just think positively, but think affirmatively, always affirming the highest and best for us. I have, you wanted to say something?
Well, I was thinking that another way to look at that too is we can't always, or it isn't easy for us always to be positive. But if we could be neutral, if we could go from I don't know or let's see rather than jumping to conclusions, we often jump to the worst conclusions in our mind and as a kind of protective device. But what that does is it actually affirms what it is we're giving energy to. We become part of that affirmation of the negative. And so jumping to conclusions that have a negative outcome positions us to have a negative experience. And so if we could say, it looks like bad things are going to happen, but let's leave that open. Let's imagine that maybe that's not so. Let's at least be neutral if we can't be positive. And then that changes the energetic field around you. And we have a field of energy around us. For those of you that have been here for a while, you know that we have a thing called auras. And the aura that we have around us can be seen by our pets, be seen by our animals. And very often, our pets will tell us that they know when we're afraid and they know when we're happy to see them. And so if our animals can see it, it doesn't mean because we can't see it, it's not there, or that we can't see it with our eyes. We may see it with our heart and we may see it with our soul. We connect with each other at multiple levels that don't just have to do with our sensory experience.
Exactly. And we have some clever sayings that different people have come up with that remind us of these things. One of the ones that I love is God in me, as me, is me. God in me, as me, is me. So I am a part of it. It is a part of me. And that's a reminder that my thoughts are powerful, my words are powerful. What I expect is powerful.
You can't take the God out of me.
Yeah, right. You can't take it out. Another one that I love, and I'm trying. We have a favorite person that we're having a memorial service for this Friday, and I believe that she always said this: "There's not a spot where God is not. There's not a spot where God is not."
And you can't lose with the stuff you use, with the stuff I
Oh,
use.
that's what she said. You cannot lose with the stuff I use. And what she meant by that was positive thinking, yes, but also affirmative prayer. Affirmative prayer is what we teach, where we affirm that the good that we want to see is already here. We tend to use words like I am instead of I will or I will have, because there's only the present when you're doing affirmative prayer. Another one is I'm perfect, whole, and complete. Whenever you have uh, any part of your body that is not feeling well or you feel ill, I am perfect, whole, and complete is a good affirmation for reminding yourself that as you say that, you are creating it.
Mhm.
You may have an ill part right that moment, but as you affirm you're perfect, whole, and complete, that is created. Um, I had an experience that was just so mind blowing at the time that I have to remind myself. And also, our children are very responsive to what we believe and say. One time, I was traveling on a plane with my 2-year-old hyperactive son, and sadly, we were in first class. I say that because my husband at the time was a pilot, and we got placed in first class. And that's not a good place for a hyperactive 2-year-old. And he had one of those trays that went over in front of him. And so he was making it go up and down and up and down, and it was squeaking and making noise. And, I was trying to tell him to stop it because people were being annoyed by all of his noise. And I also didn't want him to hurt himself because, those are moving parts. So I said, stop it, stop it. And about that time, he sure enough got his little finger caught in a hinge, and it broke skin, was bleeding. And I wanted to say, I told you so, but I realized I was reading a spiritual book and I realized that would not be helpful. So I just picked up his finger and kissed it. And I did an affirmative prayer that his finger was well. And uh, in just a few minutes, he showed me his finger and said, "Hey, Mom, how'd you do that?" Because it had totally healed. I'm sorry, it wasn't totally healed, but it was no longer cut and no longer bleeding. It was sealed. So that got his attention and it got mine too. I said, "How did I do that?" I didn't do it.
Right.
The power within me did it.
So the moral of the story is leave your 2-year-old home.
This is true, yeah. So I had, when Bob and I first met, I had told him some of these stories. And so he had heard about some of my miraculous demonstrations, we call them, when you get the result of a prayer. And
And I wanted to test that out to see if it was true or not.
yes, so he
So
put me on the back of his
And I
motorcycle.
decided to take her on the back, ride to Key West on the back of a motorcycle, which, by the way, is close to where the exhaust pipes are, which are very, very hot. And many times people will make sure they don't touch those exhaust pipes, except people who have faith and want to make a
And they've
demonstration.
never been on the back of a
That's right,
motorcycle
yeah.
before.
And they want to do a demonstration of healing. So what this young lady did was she managed to touch her leg against the burning hot exhaust pipe
As I got off.
as she got off, and then point out to me that she had just burned herself, and I could see that she had burned herself. So I knew that the incident had occurred. And then came the magic.
Yes, so I did a treatment knowing that it was healed and no burn, and it still was burning. And I thought, oh, we can't have this.
Let's get to the good part.
We can't have this. I've already told Bob that I've had demonstrations doing this. And so I just said, God cannot be in pain. And I stopped being in pain.
And there's no scar.
Yeah. And now it didn't go away right away, but the pain went away, which was a miracle. Because
It burns
there's
hurt.
nothing like a burn.
Yeah.
So, and I had a demonstration where my minister had done a prayer for me. I had grabbed a hot skillet. I made cornbread in an iron skillet, And I forgot that I didn't have the handle on it, and I grabbed it when it was right out of the 400-degree oven, and it burned my hand. And I was going to a class, so I just put ice in it and went to a class, one of our science of mind classes. And my minister noticed that I was dripping. My hand was dripping with ice, and he says, "What's going on?" And I told him I burned my hand. He said, "Oh, we can't have that." And so he just did an affirmative prayer for me, and the burning stopped. So I knew it was possible. But
So we've been married 39 years now, and what I have had to do is try to keep her away from things that are hot.
no more burns.
That's right.
No more burns. Well, that is how we're always talking to God. So, the prayers that I was taught as a child is, please God, if you find me worthy, please do this or do that. None of those prayers ever worked for me. Nothing, nothing ever happened like this. And so this is what made our teaching so popular. People were having healings and
Yeah, but
miraculous
our
things.
teaching works from the premise that we were made right. And so many of the religions that I'm aware of that teach that you were made wrong, but you might be
Oh,
able
you're
to
a sinner.
you
Yeah,
might be able
you're
to
a
get
sinner.
things right, but don't count on it. And so this really flies in the face of that kind of teaching, which has a benefit of keeping people scared and obedient, but it doesn't have the benefit of them recognizing their own godliness, their own wholeness, their own perfection. And so, it's difficult, I think, for a lot of people to embrace the idea that you were made right, that you were made whole, you were made in the image of the Creator, and that we're part of that creation. And if we hold on to that idea and we develop that idea, we can move past a lot of the obstacles that are unfortunately not out there, but are in here.
Exactly. And certainly we are not omnipotent and we are
Speak for
not
yourself.
omnipresent, but the power
I'm an
within us,
omnivore.
the power within us is, and we can use it.
Yeah,
That's something that Ernest Holmes always said. There is a power
for good.
for good in the universe that is greater than you are, and you can use it because it's always listening and it always says, right, you are my beloved. And so I would like to, if you can't think in terms of God being within you, maybe you can think in terms of the light of God being within you. But there are several well-known spiritual leaders and teachers who refer to that I wanted to share some quotes. Eckhart Tolle, you may know him, wrote, "Whenever you are present, you become transparent to the light." Now, being present means being really present to yourself, not being scattered and thinking this and worrying about that, but just being present, as in meditation. So he says, whenever you are present, you become transparent to the light, the pure consciousness that emanates from this source. You realize that the light is not separate from who you are, but constitutes your very essence. It constitutes your very essence. Gary Zukav is another spiritual leader who wrote a book called The Seat of the Soul. And he says the light that flows through your system is universal energy. It is the light of the universe. You give that light form. What you feel, what you think, how you behave, and what you value, and how you live your life reflect the way that you are shaping the light that is flowing through you. So that's that concept of Shakira again. No, I said that wrong. Shekinah. Shekinah, the indwelling presence. So,
It's funny when you plug something into the wall. Uh, you do not create the electricity. The electricity is there waiting to be accessed. And if you plug in anything that is correct or that is coherent and related to the electricity, then it flows. And so you could say the current that's in the wall is available for you because you were made to absorb, to take in, to connect with that current. And even though we can't see it, when I was very little, I remember getting very excited about the current in the wall because my mom had some bobby pins, and thank God they were coated. And I had stuck them into the wall socket, and these wonderful little gold bugs jumped out. So I went and got my mom because I wanted to show her the gold bugs. And I went to put it in, she stopped me. And that was the last time I ever saw the gold bugs.
Thank goodness.
Yeah. Thank God that the hairpins or the bobby pins were coated, or I would have been electrocuted. I too would have become one with the power.
Indeed. I would like to finalize this with including the Hindu mystical tradition, because much of our teaching comes from the Hindu mystical tradition. So it says the Upanishads, which are sacred texts, speak with a clarity that feels like revelation. Quote, the light which shines above all in heaven and the light which is within the heart, these two are the same. Unquote.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, this declaration is not symbolic. It is about spiritual identity. The teaching goes even further in the Vedantic, the Vedas are sacred texts, in the Vedantic commentary on the unity of Atman, which is defined as the self with a capital S, and Brahman, the divine, saying, within you is the light of 1,000 suns. Hinduism is telling us that the radiance we call God is not waiting outside of us. It's already burning within us. The spiritual life, then, is not an ascent to a distant heaven, but an unveiling of the divine light within us.
The other day I was out looking at some flowers, and I watched a bee going to the center of the flower to get the nectar. And I realized that the bee and the flower are one. And that without the bee, there would be no flower. Without the flower, there would be no bee. And that their interdependence, their interrelationship, they're really one. And so you could say the flower has wings and the bee has nectar, because they are one. But we so commonly believe in what we see, not necessarily what we know. So we see the bee fly, we see the flower staying still, and we say they're two separate things. When we see them as one, we see a whole different picture.
So that's how we talk to God.
So today we talked about the bees, but not the birds.
Yeah, right. But we are always talking to God. That's what we need to remember. Yeah. So,
would you like to say something to God before we close?
Oh, yeah. I would. So let's go within and know the truth of our being. We know there's one life, one source of all life, and it is everywhere present. It is present within the hearts and minds and body of each of us. And as we think, it responds. It responds with affirmative, right you are, my beloved. And so we choose to think affirmatively, positively, expecting always the best, and knowing that is what God wants for us, always the best. And so we know that we are perfect, whole, and complete right here, right now, that all is well in our world, even if the outer sometimes does not appear that all is well. We know truly that that is the truth of our being, the truth of our experience. And so as we know that, we create a harmonious life for ourselves and for our loved ones. We give thanks. We give thanks for knowing this. We release it. And together we say, excuse me, and so it is.
This is a perfect. We share the screen. Did you set that up? You did. I got it.
Not until we end the recording.